So I guess then the question at that point becomes, so then does it matter at all what you do? Does it matter if you live? Does it matter if you die? Does anything matter at all? And if you don't have some kind of an answer to that, then you don't really have a meaning for life. You don't have a reason to do it. It's like, I would imagine that if you're in this class right now and you feel like this class is completely meaningless and irrelevant and you don't need any of it for your life, my guess is it's probably because you don't see a meaning for it. You don't see a purpose for it. You don't see, it isn't that it's not going to be helpful for you in life. Every class that you take has the capacity to become helpful for you in life. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. It only exists because it's useful in some way. The proper answer is to realize I don't see the meaning in it. I don't see the purpose in it. It's not that there isn't one, but just see how it is that we behave when we don't think that there's one. Is there any problem with cheating through a class that you feel like you don't really need it anyway? It's not going to help me anyway. It's not going to. How's that possibly ever going to? How is reading poetry ever going to help you in life? Well, the proper way to see it is, well, it's going to be helpful some way because the subject still exists. And it doesn't exist just because people think it's fun. In other words, these things, every subject, every content, everything that you can learn is meaningful in some way. But if it's true that it only matters, if it's true that it's only meaningful to the extent that you can make meaning out of it, then maybe that's your task in life. To make things meaningful. Well, it is worth asking because it's difficult to reconcile. If we don't give enough attention to that, what our core worldviews are going to absolutely dictate how we behave. Because if you have someone who's religious, let's say, why would they do the right thing? First off, the idea of there even being a right thing suggests that there's a wrong thing. Duh. Having a right thing and having a wrong thing suggests that there's a judge and that there's a rule book. So, for example, in the sport, is it okay that you can get the ball and run with it? Exactly. One more time, a little bit louder. Some sports, yeah. You can do it in baseball. Can you do it in basketball? No, because the game matters, and then because the rules are the game is determined by the rule set. And so, if you get a religious person and you ask them, is it okay to murder somebody? They're going to say, no. Why? Because God said. Yeah, okay, but if there's no God, then you ask the atheist, is it ever okay to murder somebody? Well, how do you say right and wrong? I'm teaching right now. Can you come back? I appreciate it. So if you ask the atheist, is it wrong? Well, what's the rule book that you're using? And if you say, well, it's my own guide, then we're in deep trouble, man. Because we got 8 billion people on this planet. And if there are 8 billion of us who are working with different rule books, playing different games, well, surprise, surprise, we can't get along. But then again, you don't really have a right to get angry at somebody who plays by completely different rules than you do. See? Like you guys, I don't know if you guys saw this case over in Charlotte of a dude who stabbed a girl in the neck on the train. You guys have seen this? She's working at a pizza parlor. She's a Ukrainian refugee. She sits down. She has her AirPods in. I mean, you can. By the way, you can go down the list right now and note all the things that were done wrong. And by wrong, I just mean unwise. She's working at a pizza place. She gets off work. She sits on this train. She has her AirPods in. She's on her phone. She sits in front of somebody rather than trying to find a place where you can sit where nobody's in front of you, where no one's behind you. She doesn't sit sideways on the bench. If you don't know, you should. She's in a position where she's just very vulnerable. And the dude stands up. Yeah, it's all on video. Guy takes out a pocket knife, stands up behind her, and just starts and catches her with one of them in the neck. And then everybody on the train just kind of watches. And nobody on the train does anything. Everyone's just like, huh. She ends up passing out 15 seconds later. Nobody tries to help her for a minute and a half, for 90 seconds. Now, many of us might look at that and go, what the heck? How come you didn't do something? Why didn't somebody? Well, it sounds like you're judging people. If you're judging people, that suggests that there's such a thing as right and wrong. And if there's such a thing as right and wrong, then, of course, the question is going to be, what's the rule book? Who gives you that notion of right and wrong? What's myself? Then you don't have any right to get mad at people who don't follow that, because you have to recognize that there are 8 billion people with 8 billion rule books. But then you also have to recognize that without having a shared moral structure, it's difficult for us to get along in any society. We don't have the same conception of good. Yeah. But he lets bad stuff happen. Like if I came to you today and said that, let's say I was late to work today. Just kind of running up the hallway, and some of you noticed that, oh, Scallon's never late. And I got here like, why are you late? Oh my gosh, I was leaving for work this morning, and my neighbor has a pool in his backyard. And as I was leaving, I looked over my fence, and I saw he has his little toddler, 2 years old maybe or so. And the little toddler, they're wandering around. I'm like, dude, where's his dad? And he fell in the pool. And I'm just like, dude, this is like no supervision. Kid's face down in the pool. So, man, like what question would you hopefully have afterwards, after that story? Is the kid okay? I have no idea. I had to get to work. I was running late this morning. Yeah, I hit my snooze button. I was like, oh man, and I hit it twice, so I was running way late, which is why I barely got here in time. I didn't have time to stop and check on the kid. So anyway, good morning everyone. How you guys doing today? Some of you might sit there and go like, so you didn't save the kid? No. You could have. I would have been late. And my obligation is to you guys. I take my obligations very seriously. I have no obligation to the kid. He's not my kid, probably. So his parents should have been watching him, not me. Some of you very rightfully would probably say, what the hell, dude? You could have saved a life. You could have done something there. Well, yeah, but life is about suffering sometimes, right? And you have to learn how to overcome the suffering. So his dad's going to become stronger for this, because what doesn't kill his dad makes him stronger. The kid, not stronger. The kid's just waterlogged. But dad, he'll be better for this. Many of you sit there and just do a little golf clap. Oh, Scanlon's so wise, such a good person. Would any of you listen to me whatsoever after that if I talked about right and wrong and good and evil? So I guess I ask that question again, does there have to be so much evil? Like we might say there has to be some evil, let's just say. I'm not sure why, but let's just say we were to say that. Then the question becomes, well, does there have to be so much evil? Because one of the things that might gnaw on us is this idea that there is no rule book. There is no rule giver. There's no referee. That we're just a bunch of organisms, bundle of chemicals that are inhabiting this insignificant blue dot in some inconsequential solar system, in some irrelevant part of the galaxy that's one of 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. And if that's the case, then I guess what's the meaning of life? Well, there isn't one. There's only the meaning that you can come up with, things that you can gear your own life towards, that make your own life meaningful. And I guess then the question is, meaningful to who? Meaningful to you? Is it meaningful to the rest of the world? Because ultimately, the universe is going to die out. The heat death of the universe is coming. Everything in the universe is going to cease to exist, including all of us at some point. Even like within, it's a long time in the future, but within several billion years, let's say if the sun's going to expand, it's going to engulf the earth, which means that we don't find a way to get off of here, the whole species dies. Which means every memory of you, everything you did and didn't do is going to die with that expansion. And even if you do get off this planet, or our ancestors get off this planet, is there likely to be any memory of you whatsoever? When you look at some of the biggest events in the history of the world, like World War II, do you think there's even going to be a memory of a World War II in a few hundred years? Or better yet, a few thousand years? The War of 1812, big war. Can anybody tell me about it? There are thousands and thousands of wars that have happened in the history of humanity that we know nothing about. World War II, because it's so recent to us. But other than that, will we be remembered at all? And so I guess then the question at that point becomes, so then does it matter at all what you do? Does it matter if you live? Does it matter if you die? Does anything matter at all? And if you don't have some kind of an answer to that, then you don't really have a meaning for life. You don't have a reason to do it. It's like, I would imagine that if you're in this class right now and you feel like this class is completely meaningless and irrelevant and you don't need any of it for your life, My guess is it's probably because you don't see a meaning for it. You don't see a purpose for it. You don't see, it isn't that it's not going to be helpful for you in life. Every class that you take has the capacity to become helpful for you in life. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. It only exists because it's useful in some way. The proper answer is to realize I don't see the meaning in it. I don't see the purpose in it. It's not that there isn't one, but just see how it is that we behave when we don't think that there's one. Is there any problem with cheating through a class that you feel like you don't really need it anyway? It's not going to help me anyway. It's not going to. How's that possibly ever going to? How is reading poetry ever going to help you in life? The proper way to see it is, well, it's going to be helpful some way because the subject still exists. And it doesn't exist just because people think it's fun. In other words, these things, every subject, every content, everything that you can learn is meaningful in some way. But if it's true that it only matters, if it's true that it's only meaningful to the extent that you can make meaning out of it, then maybe that's your task in life. To make things meaningful. How can you make your life meaningful? Well, what if it doesn't have any meaning? At the very least, it has meaning to you. It should. And if it has meaning to you, it's probably got meaning for your friends, for your family, for loved ones. But if you feel like there isn't a meaning, then you're not going to want to come to class. You won't even mind bullshitting your way through it. And that's where you'll hear people. I mean, we all have that drunk uncle. Oh man, high school is bullshit. I didn't learn anything. I believe you. Kind of. What you did learn was how to waste time. And you learned how to fail to make meaning. You learned how to be entertained and spin your wheels, but have nothing useful to show for that time. And this isn't by my estimation. This isn't me saying anything about how we should or shouldn't be. It's something that we might intuitively know. So the mystery of life isn't a problem to be solved. It isn't like there's some kind of a God somewhere who's telling us how we're supposed to live and what we're supposed to do. Instead, there's a meaning that we can make out of it. Something that we can say, the meaning of life is to experience as much as possible. Why? Because we're here anyway. Might as well. Meaning of life is to be kind towards others. Why? Because we're all here anyway. Might as well. But there really isn't a way to judge it independently. Because there's no rule book. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Yeah. Confession time? I really like murder. I really enjoy it. Anybody else? Yeah, see, they come. We just really love murder. Murder is what makes me happy. Yep. And those of you who aren't admitting it, I see you. But don't worry, the cops don't. So now, is that a worthwhile thing for me to pursue? Murder.
I would say, yeah. But I think it's silent.
All right, questions, comments, concerns, complaints? You're on video.
I think that since we have so much laws, it doesn't allow you to pursue that.
So it's the law that stifles me.
Yeah.
So I'm oppressed. So if I can't murder, how do I find what I love?
You can look at different things, like the second best.
What's second best? Confession time?
Okay.
I have almost no taste buds, but I really enjoy cooking. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Can I put those two together, murder and cook?
Yeah, you could.
Jeffrey Dahmer did it. The man was just pursuing what he loved. Now, here's a funny thing. That second one's true, by the way. I do enjoy cooking. But I have almost no taste buds. So, for example, today, I'm making steak tacos for lunch. I have the meat because I have an air fryer back there, which means I can actually cook in here. Years ago, I had an injury, long story, and I couldn't go to the gym for a couple of weeks. So actually, it was longer than that. It's like a month. So I decided, you know what? There are three things I don't know anything in life about: cooking, chemistry, and architecture. Because I have no sense of smell. I can't taste much. So if you bring me food, I'll eat it, but unless it's got some kind of a bold flavor, like I like buffalo wings, I like pizza, not just because I'm a 12-year-old in an adult body, but because it has like strong flavors to them, so I can actually taste them. Most coffee, like whether it's like if you bring me like 2 different cups of coffee and you say, oh, this cup of coffee right here is $1.50 or $2 over at AM PM. But this one over here, this is like, bougie coffee, like $9 a cup. It's wasted on me. I can't taste the difference between the two. It's all the same to me. So because I can't really taste food, I decide I don't really cook much. But years ago when I was injured, I decided, no, I'm gonna take some time to learn how to cook. So I started reading about how to cook. And I had a friend, she would come by after the gym every day, and like, for example, I want to learn how to make fried rice. So I made 3 variations of the fried rice. And she'd come by and be like, oh, which one's the best and why? Because I can't tell the difference between them. She could do that. So it was just, now, why is it that I learned how to cook? Anybody remember? What's that? No, I didn't mention that even a little bit. What's that? Yeah, because I didn't know how. But there was something else that happened. Starts off the whole story.
You're injured.
I was injured. So if I hadn't been injured, where would I have been? I'd have been at the gym, never learned how to cook. The injury was actually a torn ACL, so the recovery was more than just that 1 month. So I spent a lot of time off after that. But if I had never been injured, then I never would have learned how to cook. So in other words, sometimes it's those terrible things in your life that happen that help you to discover something that you love. It'd be a really interesting, it is a really interesting experiment. I've done this. I've had students who took my advice and did this. Talk to people who've had like some major dramatic change in their life. They got divorced. They got laid off of work. Something, they had an illness, but then they overcame it. And if you ask those people, do you think that your life was better before or after that turmoil? Almost universally, when I ask people, they say, my life's better afterwards. But because of this terrible thing that happened, I learned this, or I developed this skill, or I found out this one thing. In other words, it's that bad thing that happens to us in our life that forces us to grow in other directions that we never would have otherwise. And then when I say bad, I put that in scare quotes because I don't know if it's so bad after all. Tore my ACL. So I learned how to cook. I'm pretty good at it now, from what I've been told. I couldn't tell you that. I think it all tastes the same. I've been told I'm pretty good at it. I do know that if there's one thing I do well in life, it's make guacamole. I know apparently I make extremely good guacamole. I make very good steak. I make very good fried rice. I put so much time and energy into that. There are a lot of dishes I make very, very well. And by the way, my ACL, they used my own hamstring to repair it. So my repaired ACL is actually 40% stronger than my original. And I got some time off. Was it so bad? Oh, and the surgery cost me $0. Because tax dollars in action. So I don't know, was it so bad? Or was it just? In other words, are the tragedies of your life, are they really tragedies? Or is it just life? A lot's going to have to do with how you see it. When I tore my ACL, I was upset, and I thought, but you know what? I'm going to learn how to cook. I know nothing about cooking, chemistry, and architecture. So now it's just chemistry and architecture. So I grew in an area that I kind of resigned myself not to. And I was limited. I can't taste these. So I was limited in that. But it's pretty dope to be able to cook. It's interesting now when people will ask me can you make that one thing that you make? But yeah. Was it so bad? No, it just was. Because so much of life just is. It's how you see it. And how you see it, a lot of times, you have to force yourself to do it. Do you think I sat there with the torn ACL and was like, this is great. I get some time off. No, it's if you're an athlete and you suffer some kind of severe injury, you know what I'm talking about. You go through all those ideations every day of like depression and suicidality and anger and annoyance, especially if the injury wasn't even your fault. And so it's a hard thing. It turned out to be a good thing though. Now the neat thing is when somebody else tears an ACL or somebody else has a severe injury, I can actually say, I've been there, bro. I know what you're going through. And so I guess I would just kind of really drive that home, that stoic approach home. We aren't offended by the things that happen. We're offended by the views that we take of them. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Wednesday.